So Lorraine is our guest speaker tonight. This is coming up to Lorraine's final hurrah for the United Reformed Church, having worked with us for a number of years as the Program Development Officer. Is that close enough, Lorraine?
Close enough.
But before that, and I'm sure Lorraine will explain more, she has spent a lifetime of her career working with children, and particularly children with special needs. She is the driving force behind much of what the United Reformed Church Children and Youth Office produce in terms of resources, including things like FACT and FAIR and Go with Greta and the Advent resources and so on. And there's certainly been the driving force in the production of our Holiday Club materials. Alongside, I have to say, colleagues and friends from the Slido team who she manages to rope in almost willingly to do a lot of the work alongside her. So I'm going to hand over to Lorraine. She will explain about the material that we've got for this year, showcase some of it. She will explain, for those of you that don't know, how you can get a grant from the United Reformed Church towards the cost of running a holiday club, whether you use the URC's material or not. We are generous like that. Lorraine, over to you.
Oh, thank you. That was. I've never heard you speak so nicely about me, Leo. So that was really nice. I'm glad it's being recorded. Should keep it for posterity. So it's really lovely to be with you and really nice to have been invited to come along and talk to you a little bit about our Advent resource, not our Advent resource at all, our Holiday Club materials. So before I start sort of ranting away and telling you all about them, I just wanted to check with people what you were expecting tonight, because I don't want to tell you things when you were coming really wanting something different. So Leo has asked me to talk to you about the material that we've done for this year. If that's not what you were looking for, it would be good for us to know before I start.
And you can either wave your hand or put it in the chat.
I'm going to take it that silence means consent.
Yeah.
Yeah? Fantastic.
I've got no expectations, Lorraine.
I've known you a long time, Dennis. Dave, I totally understand you having no expectations of me. That's very accurate. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and share a bit of a PowerPoint with you. And make sure I pressed all the right buttons. There we go. Yes, I do want to make it a trusted document again. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see the screen now. Please shout if you can't, because I can't see you. Okay.
Welcome, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. You and me and everyone. Yes, everybody's welcome. Welcome, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. You and me and everyone. Yes, everybody's welcome. God so loves the world. Everybody's welcome. He gave his only son. Everybody's welcome. No one is outside his love. Everybody's welcome. It's the reason we believe. Everybody's welcome. Welcome, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. You and me and everyone. Yes, everybody's welcome. Welcome, you're welcome. you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. You and me and everyone. Yes, everybody's welcome. Welcome, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. You and me and everyone. Yes, everybody's welcome.
That was a piece of music that was written for us by Ruth Stewart, who's one of my colleagues at Church House. He's done 2 original songs. Normally it's Leo's job to do these. This time we invited Ruth to do it because he's shown an interest in doing some work with us. And that's one of the 2 songs that he's done to go with our holiday club for this year, which is called The Clubhouse and is based on the theme for the year, which is All Are Welcome. There'll be a resource book coming out in April to all churches on the theme of All Are Welcome. And we sat down as a team and we thought, right, what is a good setting to show that everybody's welcome? And we thought, what better than a clubhouse where people decide they want to make a club, they want to have in there the things that they like, the seating that they like, the activities that they like, the place that they like, where everybody's welcome. So that is our theme for this year's holiday club. So if I share my screen again, hopefully, the PowerPoint wasn't wanting to move on just, so I turn it to the first one. There we go. So let's have a look at our slideshow. Oh, goodness, nothing ever works when you want it to, does it?
No.
I'll do it like this. This is easier. So, first of all, how do we find on the website the things that we might want to use? We go to the main page of the website. Of course, obviously, most of you have got all the children and youth work things bookmarked, so you don't have to go the long way. But we go to the website, we go to Your Faith at the top, and we find families, children and young people. Then we find the newly named resources for children and youth work. And first of all, you might want to have a look at the downloads and resources on that page. In there, you'll find all sorts of useful things. And in particular, you will find all the paperwork you're likely to need for your holiday club. So we've done all the hard work. We've got sample risk assessments and some blank risk assessment forms with some advice on how to fill them in. We've got all the safe recruitment information. We've got registers. We've got behaviour policies. All the things you're likely to want to use or adapt for your group are there under downloads and resources. So just to remind you, you'll find it under resources for children and youth work, downloads and resources. And then obviously there's holiday clubs. And this year's is the Clubhouse. So the previous ones, you may have seen them before: Time Travelers, Super Sleuths, Snapshots, Sparks and Stories, and this year's Clubhouse. Now, I know a couple of people have said that they're interested in how to run a holiday club. And actually, I've done a presentation on this before. It's on our YouTube channel, and you can find it by typing in bit.ly/holiday club how to. So if you're interested in that, make a note, because that will talk you through some of the preparation and the thinking that you'd want to put in before you actually start to plan your holiday club. That information is also in every holiday club material that's on the website. So it's there in writing, but if you're a bit like me and you like a visual as well and to hear it, then it's on our YouTube channel. So who's as old as me? Anybody remember there's somebody at the door? There's somebody at the door. There's somebody at the door. That's our catchphrase really for the whole holiday club. And the idea is that you have a doorway into your clubhouse that people can knock at the door. Different people each day will knock at the door. The leader will say, there's somebody at the door. Get the children to chorus it. And then they'll open the door and everybody shouts, come in, you're welcome. Because we want this to be a really welcoming place. We want, as children arrive, to have a really big fuss about welcoming them. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, some classrooms have those list of different ways that you can be greeted. And the children point to the one they want, and maybe it's a high five, maybe it's shaking hands, maybe it's bowing to each other or doing a funny handshake. We want to encourage churches to welcome children in a big way. We also want them to, if possible, liaise with children before and think about what would kids like to see in that clubhouse. If this is their clubhouse, what would they like to see there? Do they want chairs or beanbags or sitting on the floor? Do they want a pool table in the back, which I'm sure you'll just rustle up with no problem at all? Let's get children involved. So here we are, the clubhouse. We're looking at on 5 different days, and each of these days is independent from the others. You could do them in any order. You could pick one. You could pick and mix bits from them if you're doing them in a shorter space of time. But we thought about all the people who might need some reassurance that they're welcome. So we thought about different age groups. We thought about those people who may feel that they don't fit in. We thought about people with different abilities, people from different backgrounds, and people with doubts and questions. And we found a Bible story to go with each one. And what we think is really important is in building your team, we have Chris Dowd, Reverend Chris Dowd, who's a minister in West Midlands Synod, writes some lovely devotions for team members, and those are in there too. So each session has a Bible reading, and it also has a video that tells the story in an age-appropriate way. And then this is really important. When children start coming into the building, the first few that are waiting for the later ones, the later arrivals, that's the time when they get bored really quickly. And it sets the tone for your day or your morning if you have a themed activity that can help children settle. So each day has got a different themed activity. On the day I've picked to do there, I really like this one, is some questions about the leaders, and can the children guess which leader might be the one that's talked about in that question? Which leader doesn't like spaghetti? Then each session story is told in a different style. So there's a poem, there's a pantomime, there's a reflective story. And we know that some people find storytelling really difficult. So what we've done is we've had members of the team videoing those stories so that if you haven't got the people to do it in person, you've got a video that you can use. Those will be going up a bit later because, of course, if you've got to get loads of people videoing themselves to a deadline, you never get the videos in time. So those are coming along a little bit later. There are wondering questions to help the children engage with the story, which are repeated each time. So who was made welcome? Who did the welcoming? What does the story say to us? Where do you see the story today? And there's a prayer to do in small groups. And it's usually something active or creative. In this case, it was making the initial of someone else in the group using foil and then praying over those initials. There's a choice of activities. There'll be a craft there that you can do. There'll be something a little bit more science technology based because not everybody, Leo, likes craft. Can you believe that? And there'll also be a quick and easy recipe, which is, again, linked with the theme and is suitable for snack time. So maybe they can make their own snacks. And of course, no holiday club is complete without games. And your children probably have some favourite games, and it's always good to have favourite games in there. But the games that we've put in are linked to the theme for the day. So the ones that we have here were linked to the story of the friends taking the paralysed man and lowering him down through the roof. And yes, we are going to see if we can transport somebody on a blanket across the room through various different barriers, obviously doing our risk assessment first. And then at the end, we gather everybody together for a recap and a prayer. So it follows quite a straightforward order. There's a suggested sort of timings for the day, for the session, based on the idea of just under a 2-hour session. And that's in the materials as well. So when we look at our materials, we'll find that our holiday club materials are not just for 5 to 11s. They're primarily for 5 to 11s. That's the main resource. But we've also written appendices that give you really good ideas for how to adapt it for different settings. So we've got an appendix for the under 5s. So you might want to have a group that's just for under 5s. Or you might want to have, maybe some of your helpers have got little ones and you've got like a creche, and instead of them just sitting in the creche doing something totally unrelated, why not have them doing something related to what everybody else is doing? Quite often you'll have young leaders there in the 11 to 14 age range. They need something a little bit more meaty for some of those times when they're not needed. So we've got an appendix that's just aimed at those, written by one of our experts, 11 to 14-year-old writers, Mr. Roberts there. We have an appendix for holiday at home or vintage messy or a dementia cafe, which are written by Carol Marsden, who used to run a vintage messy church at Shrewsbury URC and is the most amazing writer. Even if you're not thinking of doing messy church for vintage, have a look at what she's written because it's so inspiring. It'll have you trying to persuade people to do that in your church. And also, this is an ideal opportunity for doing something intergenerationally, either over a period of sessions, so maybe one a week for a while, or even doing a whole day, a whole church day on the theme, and doing some intergenerational activities for everybody together. And that, my friends, is our resource for 2025. So we were wondering, would you rather stay together as a group and chat generally, or have some questions and answers as a group? Or would you rather split into two groups, one to look at 5 to 11s and one maybe to look at 11 to 14s? What is your preference?
5 to 11's for me, so I don't mind how we do it.
Is it not that most of the questions will be good to hear, whether we use, depending, it doesn't really matter what references what particular content we're using, maybe.
Yeah.
At this stage, I don't know, I might be wrong.
No, I think maybe let's start off like that then, Emma. Do you think? Maybe let's start off as a group and then see how we get on. Are you okay with that,
Absolutely.
Leo? I can see lots of nods. So I don't know if you want to just raise your hand then, if you have a question for Lorraine or for anyone else on the team, or if you feel more comfortable, you can post it in the chat, and Leo and I will monitor the chat while Lorraine is answering the questions.
I have a question.
On then, Emma.
Obviously. So we ran a one-day holiday club for 4 weeks last year. I didn't use any material from the URC because I was running it as a crafty club, an extension of what we do. This is amazing. I think there's it's fantastic. It's like a resource that I would really like to use, because the amount of time and effort it takes to even just plan like 5 crafting tables is immense. So in terms of then using the material as a non-ecumenical holiday club, I obviously love Jesus and want to try and talk about Jesus, but I don't want to put anyone off. Can you recommend like how you might approach the holiday 2 hours if you were trying to do it in a non-ecumenical way?
Yeah. So you mean not being too overly evangelical?
So yeah,
it? Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think your stories are good stories anyway. To be honest, I think I might do slightly less of the prayer.
Yeah.
I'll have some prayer, but slightly less of it.
Yeah.
An awful lot of it is, the crafts are very crafty. They're not draw a picture and write a Bible verse on it.
No.
They're very much based on the theme of welcome rather than being overly church-based, because that was something we did deliberately, because we know that the children who come to Holiday Club are generally not the church families. They're children from the local community. And so we try really hard to make sure that all the language that's in it is not churchy language, that we don't sort of go over the top with being very preachy, but basically just saying, well, Jesus welcomed children. Children are all welcome. And
yes, it's great. And also our vision and hope and mission is to welcome all anyway. So it's fab. It's really good. But that's great. That's encouraging.
I think you would find any of the materials really easy to adapt from any of the holiday clubs that we've done, to be honest, Emma. And you've got the skill to do that without me having to say, well, do this, do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you would, once you have a good read at it, you'd see that an awful lot that's there is very appropriate.
And one other thing, are these holiday clubs that have been run without parents sort of in the mind? Because so far we've not done anything without parents, but we have a desire, I have a desire to try and get there, because I think, well, there's pluses, but you know, it'd just be nice to maybe able to offer something slightly different in the holidays, which is without parents.
Yes, I mean, people say that they don't like being it being a childcare facility, but the fact of it is that that is meeting a need in the community to quite a large extent, you know, and that it enables parents to know that their children are in a safe place. And I think children are able to access it much more if their parents aren't there,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So in the material that you've got on there, is there some material that could help to know what we might need to do to make it parent free?
I don't think there's anything that's explicitly like that. I mean, obviously, the things like your safer recruiting, the things like there's a behaviour policy, and we recommend having a behaviour contract that everybody signs, which is not a heavy thing, but for the leaders to sign it as well as parents and children, so that everybody knows what the expectations are. And I think those sort of things can help to create that. The other thing I'd say though, if you're running it and you're having parents there, look at the intergenerational materials and make sure that those parents are given the opportunity to engage as well. So that it's not that they're there with their children and just doing everything for their children. And it's also not, I think one of the hardest things is when parents sit there at the back and talk. And so if you've got things which actually engage parents, that I think that's the other side of it.
Can I just chime in there, Lorraine? Sorry, because I've seen this done in different ways, Emma. One of the better ones that I've kind of heard about and been involved in is where they did it over the course of a week, and they just did, the morning, but on the Friday they invited the parents or a carer, or do you know what I mean? So it was kind of like, in terms of making it, work for parents, so the parents could kind of obviously work or do whatever they needed to do those first days, but there was that last day where it was kind of an intergenerational event and more celebratory, and so that kind of, and the kind of the children really kind of liked working up towards that. So, kind of like a day where we're going, your mums and dads and your grown-ups are going to come in, and this is what we're going to do, and we'll teach them this song, and do you know what I mean? So that worked really well. And the most recent holiday club I just went to in February half term, they did, to avoid what Lorraine said is having them kind of sat talking at the back, they invited them in for the kind of the snack and the celebration at the end. So it was very kind of, this is what you are here for. This is what you will do. But it was quite boundaried, and both of those worked well.
Lovely, thank you. That's great.
I just wonder, I know that looking at the faces of the people that are here, I know that there are some of you who have a wealth of experience in running holiday clubs. And I just wonder if anybody else has any input on Emma's first question about how to run a Christian church holiday club without being too preachy. I think the important thing that Lorraine said was that we have to remember that the Bible is chock full of really good stories. And actually, whether we're telling the story of Jesus and the woman at the well, or whether we're telling the story of the hungry caterpillar or the gruffalo, we're not saying you will do this and the expectation is that by the end of it, you will want to come to church on Sunday. But we are also being unapologetic about the fact that we are a church and what we are doing is going to be church-based. But I wondered if somebody else had any thoughts that they would like to offer on that point. Feel free to unmute yourself. Barbara, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think the stories have a moral, don't they, that's relevant to whatever religion you are. The things that what did we do last year? We did it with Super last year. We had a really good club. But what the stories say, then it's saying something to everybody as well, isn't it? That, you know, you've got to be kind and you've got to be welcoming. It's something that you're telling people all the time. So you tell your story of Jesus, but it also has something, even if people say, "Oh, I don't believe in Jesus," it's saying, you know, what Jesus says is relevant, isn't it? In these days.
Yeah, it's a good life lesson.
Yeah, that's just yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, and perhaps we're from Vine Church in Ilford. I know Camilla's here, but she's got children up and running around at the moment. But we've run a lot of holiday clubs for about 10 years now. And it's just embracing all the things that you can actually make work very well. We have the welcoming, we have lots of games to start with. Ours is 10 till 3 for 5 days. So that's quite an activity, children only. So no parents are allowed. But, you know, it's surprising how they all settle. But added to that, we reach out to the community, and we have a very diverse community. So we have children from different backgrounds, from different religions as well. So we have some Muslims, some Sikhs, some Hindus, all coming together, and they all have to respect each other, and they all get on together. And we just adapt the stories to stories that fit in with their own cultural backgrounds and their own teachings and things like that. And it's surprising, actually, once you get into it, it's actually very good to do. And obviously we talk about God because it's your God. They all have their own gods. So it's very good. And we have the celebration on the last day as well, where all the parents come and they talk and share what they've done for the week. So it's a big project. We have 50 kids for the week, and it's very exhausting. But it just, you know, some of the things you can overcome the things that you were talking about, Emma, as well, in different ways.
Thanks.
That's amazing.
Thanks very much, Anne-Marie. Yeah. Lorraine, can I ask a question, please? I have to admit that I haven't read all the material yet. Now, I just wonder, because I'm aware that some of my colleagues are involved in delivering holiday clubs, and I see some of their photos where they have these fantastic, almost stage sets for their holiday club. How important is setting the scene? Because you will be meeting in a church hall, perhaps, that the children or the young people are used to meeting there. How do you go about making it something special?
That's a really good question. I'm almost glad you asked it. I think it's one of those things. It is really important, and it isn't important at all, is my answer. What's really important is that the children are immersed in the theme from the minute they walk through the door. And that's why I said about this importance of, if we're talking about a theme being about being welcome, that we make a really big fuss of welcoming them. If you have the capacity to do it, it's really good to set the scene so that they walk into it. And you can do that really simply. It doesn't take a lot of stuff. I'd really recommend having a look at some of our photos on YouTube. In that section where it's got all the clubhouse materials will be some photographs from holiday clubs that have been done in the past. And you'll see how just a little bit of inventiveness can create something. So, for example, we did time travelers. Some people made a huge time machine. Other people used a parachute, and they just spread a parachute out and used the parachute as their time machine. because we had this theme of going round and round in a spiral to travel in time, and they just turned the parachute. So you can be creative and do it with whatever's available to you. But some people I know will be doing it in a room that isn't going to stay theirs for that period of time. So they can't set up anything really big. And there, the important thing is your character. In the lead, that the leaders get a little bit into character with it and use things like catchphrases that the children will recognize and join in with. My kids, my eldest is now 32, and we still say "Excelente el Presidente" instead of saying "excellent," because that's what they said at Holiday Club when he was 8. And as a family, we still say it. So, if you've got catchphrases and you use the songs to really build an atmosphere, I think that's the other way in. If you're not in a position to make your room look amazing, but if you can make your room look amazing, do it, because it makes the setting different than just being in a church hall.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
The last one we had dens. Is that the idea here, where they go to a den?
Yeah.
Because
Each
not
time
done that before, and it worked really, really well. Where they went to a den with a leader.
Yeah.
And we actually did different colours so that we could make badges for them. We hired a badge maker.
Yeah.
They also did their own sign for the den.
Yeah.
They made up what they wanted to call themselves and things like that.
Yeah. We've got
really like the
suggestions for that this time. I think it's really good to have dens because especially if you've got quite a big holiday club and you've got a holiday club of children who don't know each other well. It's a safe space to get to know, half a dozen, 10 at most children really well, rather than being lost in a big crowd. You can judge it from the children as well, whether you put them into mixed age groups, so the older ones help the younger ones, or whether you prefer to put them into sort of age groups so that they're with children of their own age.
Yeah, we put them into mixed age groups. The problem was, and I don't know, we just had a load of names of people who'd signed up and then they didn't come. So we'd allocated them to groups, and then we had some groups that had 3 in and some groups that had 8 in. I don't know. Do you recommend charging? We didn't charge, but I wondered if we'd charged a little bit, it would mean that people let you know if they weren't coming. I don't know. What do you think? What do other people do?
I'd be interested to know what other people do. My feeling's a bit mixed. I wouldn't want to charge much.
No,
but as you said, charging does then buy a little bit of commitment.
Yeah.
And I think personally, a lot depends on your demographic in your area, because for some parents, being charged for it and that won't actually make any difference as to whether the children go or not. Whereas for some parents, they need that help of knowing that it's being provided for them, and maybe having the option of making a donation. But I'd be interested to know what other people do.
We did it for free because we do our crafty club for free on a Thursday, but we do events where we charge, and this time what we've been looking at is a pay as you can afford. So there's a price for a ticket, and I think this was something that I'd like to apply for the holiday because of the reason of not knowing numbers. Because last year I just didn't know whether it would be any good. I didn't think anybody would really turn up that many. I just thought I'd maybe get 10 kids. And because it's such a valued thing to do, I was like 20, 25 children. But then on one day when it rained, there were fewer. When I boosted the team. I'd got like Leo there, 5 ministers, and then we only got 10 people, and I was like, oops. But because of that, I just think this year I'd need to do something different just so that I was more at peace. But I think perhaps pay it as like there's something about someone committing, even if it's £1 towards it. I think that it just means that they've made that pledge in effect.
Yeah, and we might let you know if they're not coming. But
Yeah.
we've made all these badges, and I don't know, how do you allocate to groups before they come? Do you allocate to groups before they come?
I'd end up doing it like that. Right, you're blue, you're green, you're red, you're yellow. But
As they came through the door,
maybe that might be it. But then
rather
you
than
don't
doing
know.
it beforehand.
You don't know how many of so many age group you're going to get until they arrive if they haven't put their ages on and then they don't turn up. Go on, Megan, you know.
I know, I was just going to say the one I went to in February, they'd already allocated them to groups, but they had a booking system.
Yeah.
So on their publicity, there was just an email address that they had to get in touch with to register by a certain date. And then it was all the information was sent out to those kind of to those parents beforehand, because I went to help out, but I took one of my children as well, so I got it was quite useful actually, because I got all the information that like the user end also got. And they just asked for a donation of £2, but they did say please speak to the people on the door if, do you know what I mean, if that's a problem. And also I think I've been involved in others where if they get a meal they ask for some money. Do you know, so if it's including a meal or a mealtime breakfast, or then they will ask for contribution. I think that churches feel more confident to ask, and they allocated the group, sorry, that's what I was saying, according to their age. So like there was like 5 to 7s in one group, and then there were leaders that would work with that group and do the day with them, and then there were I was in that group, but 8s to I can't remember what it was, 10s, and then 11s to 14s, so they had some time all together. But when it came to doing the games or doing the crafts or they travelled around those places in their age groups.
Yeah, because we had
that's
this
what
where
I've been
they
used to.
registered by email and said, but we didn't ask them which days they were coming, which I think that was the thing. If we'd have said which days are you coming, then we might have been known a bit more what
We
was
made the
happening.
foolish assumption they were coming to the mall.
Yeah, I think actually a booking form is really important, because you need, for example, you need parents' contact details.
Yeah.
You need
we did. Yeah.
sort of photograph permissions. You need all of those sort of things you need on there. So
we did that. Don't worry, we did that. We just did it when they arrived. Anybody who sent me their email details, we emailed out. But we'll be more organised. But we did get all the safeguarding stuff.
Yeah.
More generally, Lorraine, this is obviously not a one-person job or even a two-person job.
Yeah.
How many there are obviously legal requirements, and then there are safeguarding requirements from the ULC. How big a team do you think you need to run an effective holiday club, and where do you get them from?
I think you need as big a team as you can get, pretty much, because very, very often you'll find that children who come are children who don't get a lot of individual attention. And just that little bit of mentoring is really helpful. So personally, I'd say you need, ratios are difficult because the more children the smaller the group, you're going to need at least 3 people for a small group. As you get bigger, you need to stick with the guidelines which are given in Good Practice 6, but because it will depend on ages, it will depend a little bit on additional needs. If you think you haven't got any children with additional needs coming, you're wrong, because you will have. They may not have been diagnosed, they may not have a label, or their parents may not tell you. but there will be children who need additional support. So I would want to have a good number of leaders there, and you certainly want 2 people for each group that's meeting, because if you're carouseling activities, if a child needs to go to the toilet, you or is feeling unwell or is upset or something, you're immediately taking an adult out of that setting. How to get people involved is always the challenge, isn't it? And one of the things that I'd say is to impress upon your congregation that there are lots of ways in which they can help, which don't necessitate them being directly involved with children or even liking children. So the people organising the snacks, if you've got people organising snack, then that frees you up to engage more with the children. If you've got people doing setup and take down of things, then that frees you to be direct with children. If you've got people doing PowerPoint or video or audio, then that frees you up. And they don't have to actually engage with the kids at all if they really don't want to, although they probably will find themselves drawn in. We used to have an old lady of 99, she was, when she said, I think I'm getting a little old for this now. And she used to come and she used to just do the snacks and tell the children they couldn't have a third biscuit. And that was her role at Holiday Club, and she loved it. And the kids all adored her, except, when they did want a third biscuit. So I think that can help. If necessary, asking parents, but they shouldn't be your first port of call, because then it can cause problems between, they can be over attentive to their own child, they can be distracted by their own child, they can ignore their own child, and that child really doesn't have a good time. And also we tend to find that, and this is saying it from teaching as well, if the parents are there, the behaviour is worse. But yeah, you just have to do what you can, I think. But remembering safer recruitment, you must do safer recruitment. And if you haven't got enough people, then you can't do it. Obviously, you need DBS at enhanced level. And the other thing I'd say is use your other local churches. Do it ecumenically. Get them involved. And offer your services if they do one. Maybe do it alternate years, things like that. That it's all the things that you'd say for any finding of volunteers, but it is the hardest bit, I think.
Anne-Marie, do you want to add? I saw Anne-Marie, you had your hand up.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask about, pulling all these different people in, about how you go about with the DBS checking, especially when it's last minute.
Yeah, last minute is too late. If you've not got DBS for them, they can't do it. The only thing that I would say though is that if they are not left alone with children during that holiday club, then they can do things as volunteers under supervision, but they must be directly supervised the whole time, and that not sort of put forward as being in a position of trust. I think that's the important thing with that. But in dire straits, you could do that as long as
include that in your risk assessment.
Yes.
I would include that as a line in the risk assessment if you had any last minute, that you needed the team to flag up to make sure that these people aren't left alone or.
Yeah.
Lorraine, Megan has kindly put up the link for the grant, how to access the grant. Do you want to explain a little bit more about this as a final bit for tonight?
Absolutely. We love giving money away. And not personally, I hasten to add. We have grants of £50 or £100, which you can apply for up to 3 years in a row. So it's not a one-off thing. You can do it for 3 consecutive years. You could apply. You'll find it on the website. Megan's given you the link there for it. And there's a small form to fill in. And then what we do ask of you in return is that you write us a report about your holiday club. And if possible, if you can do it with permissions, that you send us some pictures that we can use. Just because we like using pictures of real URC children doing real URC things rather than stock photos. But yes, those grants are freely available. You don't have to be using our material. You can be using any material for your holiday club. You don't have to be doing it in the summer. You don't have to be doing it over a week. And you don't have to be doing it on your own. You just have to have, obviously, to be a URC church or an LEP that is doing it. So please ask us for money and we will give you some, almost certainly. Unless you're asking for it for a holiday for the leaders, in which case, not a chance.
Although the leaders will need a holiday, having completed holiday club. Lorraine, thank you ever so much for coming and sharing your thoughts and your wisdom and your experience tonight. If there are questions that you've got that you've not asked for some reason, please do feel free to get in touch with your Synod Children and Youth Development Officer or equivalent, who will either give you the answer or will find out the answer on your behalf and share it with you. And as a personal plea, but I'm sure I speak for all my colleagues as well, if you are running a holiday club, please do invite us to come and have a look. We're not Ofsted, but we do love to be involved and see what is going on in local churches. So please do feel free to invite us to come and have a look. Megan, you've got some news about what is coming up.
I do, yeah. Let me share my screen so that I can show you what's coming up and a little bit about some other resources that are available to help you in your work and your ministry with children and young people. Because Lorraine is here, well, not just because Lorraine is here, but obviously Leo said right at the beginning that Lorraine is involved in producing much of the resources that come out of Church House with the Children and Youth Work team. So there's another resource there that is available, the All Are Welcome themed booklet. It's got kind of appendices and suggestions of how to work with different age groups, a little bit similar to the holiday club that Lorraine's just talked us through. But it's got things like intergenerational worship services in there, creative prayer ideas, kind of all of those helpful, useful resources that can be used to enhance and support your ministry. Are they available yet, Lorraine? I haven't seen
those
one.
Will be coming out in April. The All Church mailing is a bit later because of Youth Assembly dates changing. So they're coming out in April. And I will say that this year's resource book is a little different to the ones you've had in the past.
Yeah, so it is available online, but it's also available in a hard copy, Lorraine, not if that's still true. Yeah, and I don't know if you're anything like me, I do like to have it on my shelf so I can actually have a physical flick through it. So if you want one of those, then I think you can email Heather at Church House or contact your local SIDO who will be able to get their hands on a copy and get it to you. The second thing that I
sent to every church.
Yeah. The second thing I thought was pretty exciting was around these bags of welcome, which is a new leaflet that will be coming out soon. So again, look out for this. And this is just to along the theme of welcome. How ready are you as a church to welcome children into your worship space? So this just comes with suggestions of things that bags you can have ready, resources that you can easily get together. It's that chicken and egg scenario that I spend so much time talking to churches about, what if children come, we have nothing for them, but we're not going to get anything ready for them because they don't come. It's kind of, we go talk around that circle quite a lot. But yes, this is just a suggestion of things that you might want to include and have ready. And then finally, in terms of resources, I don't know if any of you have seen these prayer prompt cards. These are really good. They say for 4 to 8 year olds, and they also say for 8 to 12 year olds. You can be as rigid as that with them. I gave them to a worker who's not actually a youth and children's worker, they're a pioneer worker, and they told me they took them into the care home, and some of the adults used them, to pray. But they're just good to have so that if you do get a young person come, or you could ask them to lead prayers with it. It's very good for young people and children with additional needs as well, to find ways that they can participate in the life and ministry of your church. So yeah, again, they're available. They're free. They're free. So again, get your copy either from your side or get in touch with Church House for that. They're a brilliant resource. Then in terms of things that are up and coming, so just last night, I think it was, Leo, was it? We had the first Youthscape Essentials. This is a 10 session course, which some of the Sido Pluses, myself and Leo included, are running each month. So it's between now and end October. And if you are working with young people, or you're considering working with young people, if you've got some children that are kind of coming up to that transitional age and you're thinking, oh, I don't really know what's next, I don't really know what that ministry looks like, then come along to these sessions, and they will hopefully upskill you, encourage you in what is relevant and what is applicable for working with children and young people in today's society, really today's context. The next thing is a conference that's happening on Saturday. So if you happen to have a free Saturday and you don't know what to do with it, and you can get a train to Sheffield quite easily. So the online bookings are actually closed at the moment, but you can still pay £15 on the door, and you can take part in the Joined Up conference with Nick and Becky Drake. It's all about working intergenerationally, and looking at what your vision and your mission for your children and youth work is this year. And then what have I got here? A date for your diary, really. It probably seems a long, long way away, the 28th to the 30th of November. But yeah, I think bookings will probably open in the not too distant future. It's conference number 2. So the first one was last year. So if you are a person who volunteers or works with children, one of those key volunteers, key workers, then do go along to the conference and meet other people like yourselves, and spend some time exploring resources together, talking about the wonders and the stresses of working with children.
In that group, because we're losing the.
Yeah, so put that date in your diary. And then the last thing that I want to tell you about, and it's not the last thing, it's the second to last thing. You're here at the Talking About session, and we're really, really, really pleased that you've come along and joined us this evening, and we hope that it's been worthwhile. We do this every month. As you can see, March the 25th is the next one, and it's all about talking about toddlers, and specifically around the National Literacy Trust and what resources they have that can help you to engage with toddlers and local families. So if you run a toddler group, or there is someone in your church who runs a toddler group, or you're interested in that, then please do share that, put that date in your diary and come along. That was the 25th of March. There's lots and lots of things that I'm telling you about, and there's more that I chose not to include because I just thought we're not going to have much time, and I know I'm already 3 minutes past 8. But there is this thing called the URC Children and Youth Padlet, and most of the stuff that happens goes on there. So if you wanted to just put that on your favorites tab or have it open on your phone, lots of stuff that happens across the synods and that comes out of Church House does get put on there. So it's useful to just have a browse at every now and then. And then the last thing that I just wanted to flag up was an event that Leo and myself were involved in. It's a youth weekend. So unfortunately, don't think anybody on the screen, although Emma's daughter, I think, looked maybe like she was within this age group. But yeah, it's for 11s to 14s. If you know any, please do let them know. I think they've got until next Friday. Yeah, Friday the 7th of March to book. So the deadline is quite soon. But this is the first event of its kind that the National URC Children and Youth Team are doing. So it's bringing young people together from across URC churches up and down the UK, just for a time of fun, chatting about faith. So yeah, if you do know anybody who you think might be interested in that, then do please share that. I think, Leo, that is me.
Could I ask
Thank
a
you.
question? Sorry,
Yeah,
Leah.
of course you can, Emma, yeah.
That resource that you were just talking about before the flyer, where is that, please? Which
That
tells-
Padlet.
Yeah, what's that? Sorry.
I'll copy the it's basically, I'm just copying the link for you. It's essentially like an online calendar.
Okay.
And I put my stuff around Yorkshire in there, and all of the kind of online opportunities go on there as well. So it doesn't necessarily link to resources, but it does tell you about opportunities and training and things like that.
Great. Thanks. Hetty's only 10 next year.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying next year, yeah. Wonderful, thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for being involved, for your questions, and for your commitment to the faith life of children that your church comes into contact with. I wondered, Lorraine, if you would lead us with the Makaton race.
I can do that. So first of all, we're saying the grace. So a fist on top of your hand. We're going to bring it down from God to us. May the grace, of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship, so shaking hands, of, this is the hard one, of the holy, so hold your hand flat and there, then tap. So the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you next month with the National Literacy Trust. God bless. Enjoy the rest of the evening and the rest of your time. Thanks for coming. Good night.
Thank you. Very good.